The Canadian Transport Minister announced a real reversal here. Boeing MAX aircraft cannot fly in or out of Canada. Here's what he said.
As a result of new data that we received this morning and had the chance to analyze, and on the advice of my experts, and as a precautionary measure, I am issuing a safety notice. This safety notice restricts commercial passenger flights from any operator of the Boeing 737 MAX 8 or MAX 9 variant aircraft, whether domestic or foreign, from arriving, departing, or overflying Canadian airspace.
And again, a real departure. Just yesterday, he said he saw no reason to ground these planes. These restrictions, as he said, affecting the MAX 8 and the MAX 9. 18 Canadians were on board the deadly Ethiopian flight. Of course, we're still waiting on information to come in about what caused the crash itself. The black boxes are still sitting in Ethiopia, which does not have the capacity to get the information. An Ethiopian airline CEO said yesterday he's not really sure where they're going to send those black boxes, just somewhere overseas. The pilots reported having flight control problems after the crash, but a former FAA acting administrator and this morning the former CEO of American Airlines said there's data that's communicated in real time, and it showed no aberrations with the plane. Pilots unions representing Southwest and American say they are confident in the safety of the 737 MAX 8 despite those two crashes just months apart. The FAA says there's no information coming in that the plane is unsafe. So in the United States, it can keep flying. But again, the Canadian Transport Minister just wrapping up that news conference, explaining now why his country is reversing course. He says he just got new information today to make that happen. And in much of the world, this is a very different scenario than the United States. In fact, we want to show you Flight Aware and the planes that were flying. I mean, this was 2 weeks ago, a screen grab of these MAX 8s that were flying worldwide. Now, can I show you how many are flying right now? It's dramatically different. And
I saw this earlier. It's basically the U.S., North America, and now that the Canadians have said no, that's where the bulk of the flights are. If you were to show the new map, you would see that. Here's what I want to get at. Number one, the FAA only has an acting administrator, so there's no top cop, if you want to say that. And that position has been open for 14 months. Dallas Morning News did an investigative piece where they find several 737 MAX 8 pilots, I'm reading from their website, their headline, in the U.S. complained about suspected safety flaw.
We looked through that database. Our investigative team has looked through it. It looks like some of those complaints have been pulled up. They're not popping up for us, those same complaints. And it's a handful of pilots who've gone in, some of them notably after crashes, to say, hey, I think that there's something up with this plane. But again, the union that represents, say, 15,000 pilots for American Airlines is saying, we think this is a safe plane. And I've talked to Boeing insiders who say the same thing, that they're putting their money behind Boeing. And again, we don't know what the answers are. There may be a lot of fear as a factor out there.
Yeah, you need to replace the jets that are grounded, which is the next part of your report as well, is how airlines are dealing with the grounding of the MAX jets.
Norwegian, for example, says now it's going to put in the Dreamliner to replace the MAX 8s that were flying people from Providence, Rhode Island, and from Stewart, New York, to Dublin. They're going to bring in the Dreamliner to do that, but they're not going to pick up the cost. They say we're going to build Boeing for that. We'll have to wait and see what this is. And by the way, I read through a lot of analyst reports today saying we expect there to be a short-term blip for Boeing, but not a long-term one.